Hello everyone, Dr. Sue here, and welcome to the Masterclass. This Masterclass is going to be just a little bit different because this is a very special time of the year. This auspicious time of the year happens to allow us to have access to the most brilliant light on earth any time of the year. So we're going to be doing some things working with that light in our conversation this month. And while we are past the solstice and we are past the actual day of Christmas, please understand that the holy days are really from Thanksgiving until about January 21st. And so we're right steeped in the middle of the most valuable time for you to ever access your own deep, deep inner truth and to allow that deep truth as a reflection to rise up in your core. And this is such a point of today's masterclass, is that we have to recognize that we are already that light which so many are seeking. We are that which we are looking for, which is why so many people have such a challenged time accessing or finding what it is that is being sought. We have to remember a few things and dive into the application of that remembrance now, at this holy time. These holy days are holy and are being celebrated around the world by every indigenous culture from recorded history. And the reason for this is that there is literally a planetary alignment that is occurring in such a fashion that it allows more direct cosmic energy, cosmic light, to bombard the planet in a direct fashion. And so while we are moving on an axis and we are rotating and moving around our sun, all of it affecting the northern hemisphere a little differently than the southern hemisphere, what we know for sure is that the entire planet is being impacted because of other rotations and other aspects of the larger system that are at play. We have to remember that we are rotating and rotating around a sun, and that our entire galaxy is in a spiraling fashion, rotating as well. And that galaxy is rotating around other galaxies in an even larger spin. And in that rotation, what happens is there is a certain time of the year where there is an alignment, planetary alignment, constellations aligning in particular fashions that allow us to receive more easily, more abundantly, the rest of who we are. Now, we've spoken before about conversations regarding the I Am presence, about the soulful self coming into physical form and embodying in this way, and allowing that embodiment is what our life process is all about. The more we live in a state of resistance, no, that won't work. No, we can't do that. No, I'm not enough. No, this can't happen. No, forgiveness is not an option in my life. When we operate in such manner, what happens is we begin to block by creating a vibrational frequency that is not a match to this high frequency light that is bombarding the planet at this time. And so this opportunity comes and passes us by and comes around again the following year and passes us by, all because we're not in vibrational collaboration with what it is offering us. It is offering us up the opportunity to embody, to slip all the way into the density of this physical realm. The density of the physical realm means you dropping into the aspects of your history that have been painful and being more present with them than you were able to be before. It means you dropping into your own unforgiveness, your own unresolvedness, your own sleepfulness, and recognizing, wow, I didn't bring my full consciousness to that picture when I was 15. I didn't bring the wholeness of my conscious presence to that situation when I was 25. I didn't have the wherewithal to be completely soulfully in my wholeness as the whole one or the Holy One when I was 5. I was just trying to get by and figure out how to fit in with siblings or with kids in the neighborhood or whatever the circumstances might have been. And I promise you, you have not revisited some of those things at all. Some of them you have revisited, and you think that you have an intellectualized reconciliation of it. But my question for you in this masterclass is, do you know that you can be present with something that you were unable to be present with on a felt, sensory, heart-based level? Can you fully open to the presence of that situation and have even additional memories of it and welcome them as something that you are here as the unifying, neutralizing force on this planet to unpack it, to dissolve it, to turn it into a victory? Meaning, can I stay present in the face of that circumstance where I do not know who I am, I do not know what to do, I do not know what this is for, I do not know how to masterfully manage the situation. I can at best shut it off, conceal it, bury it, or ward it away and just get through and get by. These circumstances have been happening since day one in our lives. Why? Because that's what we came for. How do I know this is happening in your life too? Because that's what we're doing here. Once we recognize that we are the creative force, once we recognize we are made of the God stuff, we are that thing we've been studying about and learning about, we're included in that. It's not something that is always only ever over there that we can pray to or ask for guidance from or hope to have help by. It is so much more than that. And this time of the year allows us to experience that. Hope you have a drink nearby. Let's have a holiday drink together. Okay? I've just been traveling. I'm back from India. Came back to LA. I was off the coast of India in the Maldives Islands. A deep, beautiful retreat. And then back to California, to LA, and then to Arkansas to spend time with my family, my brothers and their families. And some of you know that that's a tremendous, wonderful expression to be able to share that that's happening. And some of you who might just know that connecting with family is important, and reconciling anything unresolved is also very important. And here we are. My goal in this life is to walk everything that I'm sharing with you and to share with you everything that I'm walking. People always say to me, Dr. Sue, you walk your talk. And I just want to remind you that actually what's happening is I'm talking my walk. I'm sharing with you what is happening in my life because of a great awakening that occurred in my life 20 years ago, and an embodiment process that has been happening on a conscious level for 20 years. And every single year, as the cycle comes around again to what I'm speaking about, I drop deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and infiltrate the high frequency energy that I awakened as, which now became my consciousness, which is what I'm sharing with you through all of the Energy Codes coursework and the spiritual best application of the hands-on work and the Body Awake Yoga application of yoga that you've become aware of, that are all available to you inside Morter Institute. And what's happening each year is that I'm not only infusing deeply into a deep-rooted state to the bone and to chakra 10 beneath where I walk and where I sit, but also into the tiny details of every layer of my being. And this year in particular, I'm finding additional entryways into additional dimensions that are not in our direct connection as the average individual here on the planet. We could certainly live in these bodies and be successful in these bodies and be physically fit in these bodies and be extraordinarily healthy in these bodies and never really know what I'm speaking about and what you're studying about inside the energy codes. And my hope and dream for humanity, and particularly in our conscious community, is to give you access to a deeper version of life. One that you witness the experiences of others being unconscious or having to resort to practices of denial or practices of covering up or practices of addiction to keep themselves from feeling or experiencing. And some of them have gotten such an early start on that, they don't even know that they're covering themselves up from having particular experiences or a deeper life experience itself or a deeper felt level of the self. They got such an early start, it's kind of all they've ever known. And I witness that along the way, as each of you do, I know. I witness aspects and pockets of my own consciousness that I can tap into and tie together with other aspects of my consciousness that I did not know were not connected to each other until I'm fully embodying each of them. And then all of a sudden they want to know each other. And I break down into a beautiful melting pot within my own core, where the aspects of discovery of my own expression out in the world get to meet up with the aspects of discovery of my communion and connection with biological family. And they get to meet up with and connect with the aspects of my own conversations with you in these more intimate settings. And they get to connect up with my ability to communicate in intimate relationship with my partner, or they also merge with the aspects of deep, valuable friendships that have been around for decades, and new friendships that mean so very much, and they all get to integrate and weave together, all creating a deeper sense of self. And this is what I want for humanity, because I know firsthand the difference that it makes in our lives when we begin to function in this way. And so as we begin to approach these holy days in this way, what we begin to experience is nature's beautiful, loving, divine support to who we are, to what we're doing here, and to how it's meant to be for us. And so know that as you meditate at this time of the year, as you do your meditations, and as you are inviting a deeper version of yourself to be witnessed and experienced, the invitation is this: do not think that you're supposed to be particularly exalted in this moment. Do not think necessarily that you're supposed to be communing with your own North Star up overhead. However, I'm going to show you how to be with that this evening. Do not think that in particular you're supposed to birth your own Christed consciousness or your Buddhic consciousness in this week, because this week is so important. Don't try for that, because when you're trying for that, you'll miss the opportunity to take the next step toward that is essential. But just like we know that sometimes, even if you're wanting to fly from Indianapolis to Los Angeles, you might have to go to Dallas or to Chicago first. You might not have a direct line straight to your destination. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. In fact, it might be the only way for you to get there. And here's what I mean with that analogy. You may be finding that you have to move deep into your solar plexus in order for your third eye to open. And you may find that your system is wanting to deeply inhale and exhale in a slow motion fashion, that you might think intellectually, I should be doing breath of fire now to give rise to this energy to pop up into these high brain centers and to have this euphoric experience. And I certainly know that there are a lot of teachings out there, and have been for decades, that I know of, that are pushing the river and trying to get people into these high brain centers, unfortunately, oftentimes prematurely, only to create an addiction to the meditation, an addiction to that elevated experience, not necessarily bringing a person to a greater sense of warmth, a greater sense of compassion, a greater sense of self, which allows for a greater sense of sharing love when it matters most, for a greater sense of integration and allowing physical healing and a conscious evolution and a spiritual maturity. I've seen so many practices in so many ways that people drive that energy right up to the high brain centers. And I want you to know you're going to get there, but it will be when your ripe, soulful self draws you there, not because your intellectual performing personality has decided to go for it. If you want to go for it during this holy day time, my suggestion to you is to train your mind to find what is authentic, what is really happening along this central channel that we study inside the energy codes. What is calling my conscious attention? Where is it drawing me? Is it pulling me right now to my throat chakra instead of the third eye, instead of the crown? Is it drawing me to my third chakra instead of my heart? Is it pulling me into my rootedness or even into Mother Earth when all the while I thought this was a time of great exaltation? What is this joy and bliss and elation meant to be for, if it isn't for the beautiful moment of awakening at this sacred time of the year? I'll tell you, what it's for is integration. Your own Christed consciousness cannot be a real thing until it is happening authentically and in an integrated fashion. It will never actually be an awakening. It will only be a new phenomenon that one will think is taking them there. Now, I know this because I've lived it. I've lived trying to recreate the experience that I had for years, not ever being able to do it, until I surrendered and stopped trying. And I just came home to myself. Well, interestingly enough, in coming home to myself, I was actually able to inadvertently move directly into these exalted states again. Not because I was trying, not because I was focused in exactly the right spot here, but because I was surrendered deep into the heart space, into the belly, into wherever the self was being at any given particular time, about 10 years ago. And as that started to happen, I recognized there are some pinpoint ways that I could prepare myself, but then I have to surrender and allow. So we can do all kinds of work to build the circuits and build the pathways and find our coordinates and our 4 anchor points to sense and to feel and to build the superhighway. But the intricate details of ascending through that superhighway happen on autopilot. They don't happen because you're making them happen. No way. It's because you drop in and you allow the soulful self to rise in its form, in its fashion, in its manner, at its pace, and in its own path that will be a winding path. So I can't encourage you enough to allow the tender, graceful, precious approach that you would approach a newborn, to look at them with wonder and awe, and how you would be if their tiny little fingers and their tiny little eyes were reaching out to you and connecting. That sensation that would be felt inside as that is happening activates and ignites a particular vibrational frequency inside of you that automatically ignites what I'm speaking about. It automatically ignites the rising soulful self. It ignites the part of you that got shut down, compartmentalized, and pushed back behind, pushed into the trunk, underneath the stairs. That one, that version of you needs to be invited back up and out, because that version of you is the one who knows. Is the one who knows the combination lock to connect the deep wisdom in your gut with the beautiful love in your heart, with the directive, organizing principle of the center, high brain centers in the head. When we allow these 3 aspects of us to connect, to commune, and to be in service to something unified, everything changes. Everything changes. Your ability to see in between the lines of the challenges of your life, your ability to weave it together and find the way that you were contributing to the problem, even though it looked like you were carrying the solution. When this begins to happen, we start to humbly be able to reveal. We can apologize, we can be forgiven, we can forgive, we can reveal. All of those options are simply ways to get the doorway open. But at the end of the day, once that doorway is open, the thing that really begins to happen for you, to change the quality of your life experience and to enhance your ability to experience love here on this planet, is that you remember this one thing. You are here to create your life experience. You're here to make it be the way that you would have it be. Even if you could build a case for why it would be appropriate for someone else to start the apologies, for someone else to lean in and start supporting you. Even if you could build a case that would say they should have this. I can't believe that they never that. All of that keeps you where you've always been, in the world of duality and figuring out who is the most right. The right one is the one who leads with love. And if everyone leads with love, everyone gets to be right. And in that, we all get to win. So here's the invitation. Will you this year, this time, this moment of opportunity, choose to simply create it, bring it, be the one that says, oh, I'm so sorry that went that way. I never meant for it to. Here's what I meant instead. Let's do this. Let's begin now. Can we make a pact? Can you know that I love you? Can you know? Can you hear? Is there anything that I could say or do that would help clarify or work through something that never got to get worked through? If you would be the one that would lead that, you would have it. You would have it all in the palm of your hand. And if some circumstances come and go and it got past you before you realized, oh my God, I was supposed to be the one right back then, you can always call them back. You can always send another note. You can always invite another conversation. Hey, well, we were together for the holidays. I just wanted it to be smooth, and so I didn't want to bring this thing up, but I really want you to know this is how I feel. No matter what went down, or no matter what is going, no matter what you've been thinking, or no matter what I was thinking, here's what I really want, and here's how I feel about you. And to approach those kinds of situations with that kind of disposition, not expecting them to agree, to see it your way, to even understand what it is that you're talking about, but all the while to do so with having one eye on the inside, monitoring and noticing and anchoring yourself on subject in full recognition that I am being the being that I choose to come here and be. I am being the one that I want to be in this lifetime. And even if no one else ever gets it, I know that I'm going to show up in the way that gives me the experience of being a me that I'm proud of being. Not proud of like, yeah, I was the one who solved that, but proud in the sense of, in the face of God, will you have no regrets? Will you know that you know that you know that you did what you came here to do? What you came here to do was to know how to lead with love no matter what, how to bring the light into every dense situation, into every wobble, so that we are stabilizing that wobble in a brand new way and allowing it to be a way that humanity can see and sense and feel and have modeled for them because of your being here, how to do it in a new way, in a unifying way that doesn't require anybody lose in order for somebody to win. What if everyone could win and you could choose a way of being that allowed for that? So if you're willing to come forth in the way that I just described, hey, I never meant it to be this way, here's what I choose, I don't want to bring this up if it's too difficult for you, but I just have to know that I said this, that I cared enough, or that I, was courageous enough to just spit this out right here. I have to know that I did that. And in that, the victory has already happened because you were willing. And that's all we have to do, because in that moment, a new vibration gets birthed in you. It literally ignites a different radio station inside of you. It sets it alive. It brings to life a new version of who you are that never had a chance before, because you were waiting for the right moment, or you were waiting for them to say the thing that let you feel safe enough to begin. You have to remember there's no one out there. It's just you battling you. It's just you deciding that you're enough to bring it. It's you allowing this to be true. Now, one of the things that I have noticed have allowed me enough courage, enough wherewithal to be the one to lean in, to speak up, to lead with love, to say it first, is that in these holy day moments, I drop in. I don't try to climb high. I know, and I set my sights on this North Star up here, Chakra 8. Those of you in the coursework completely understand what I'm talking about. Those of you that have maybe only ever seen an image of the Chakra 12 person with something about 2 feet above their head called Chakra 8, it's considered the North Star. And it is the North Star that is in the stories of this time of year. And the Christed consciousness does happen when we rise to these high brain centers above the primitive brain. And Bethlehem is that place. Consider that inside this manger that is the shape of these these nested spaces above the primitive brain in the brain physiology. You can learn about that at the Kashi retreat. You'll be learning about that at Sedona as well. But as we come into that, know that the three wise men were the central channel, the Sushumna, and the Ida and the Pingala, integrating and weaving their way up all the way, managing our energies of assertion with our energies of patience and waiting. As one is masculine energy and the other is feminine energy, and we have to find the balance between those two so that those energies can rise in the perfect combination, that this child of a new birthing consciousness can have its moment. But we don't get there by rushing there. We move wisely. We move with deep felt sense of sensation of what is true. Not looking for the right time to move, but landing the mind on the energy that is rising. That wisdom energy rises at its own pace. You don't have to figure out, should I put my foot on the gas, or should I put my foot on the clutch, or should I put my foot on the brake? You simply train the mind to drop in and feel what is happening here. Because when it feels at a subtle enough level, it lands on something that is lifting it up. So when we are able to perceive, set this here, when we are able to perceive at such a subtle level, there is a subtle soulful energy that is rising. When we place our mind onto it and soften it enough with love and reverie and devotion, it will light on something so light that that rising soulful energy will carry our awareness up through the primitive brain and illuminate in these high brain centers. But previous to that, our mind is so densely focused on hardcore thoughts and actions and goals, making it happen, that what happens is it's so densely focused that when this delicate soulful self is rising, it plummets right through it while the soulful energy continues to rise. Our heavy mind isn't catching the ride. So we never get to have the experience of being awake at this delicate, soulful essence of illumination that is rising. So we have to soften the mind. Love in the mind is required for this very thing that I'm speaking of. Love, precious, reverie, sentiment, tenderness, rarity, as if you were in the presence of a child king, because you are, and it is you. Your own king is in its childlike form, because while it was still a child, it got dropped upon with this heavy thinking, analytical mind that was trying to find a way to survive in this world. So we have to shift that. We shift it by bringing our attention here into this deep heart center. But don't even force it there, because it might need to stop first at your manifesting chakra. You are coming into this body. You are coming into this physical dimension from higher frequencies. So know that you're coming from chakra 9 to chakra 8 to chakra 7 to chakra 6, and you're coming in, and you may need to be held right here at the 5th chakra. How will you know? The energy will just stop, and you're approaching it with such a delicate reverie and devotion that you're willing for it to stop right here. Even if you know that the name of the game is to drop all the way to 10 and rise back up and pop up through here and have this illumination happening, you can't push that river. You cannot push that river. And so, what do? To soften, sense, and feel. We find our 4 anchor points and we lean back against the spine and we allow a breathing, a gentle breathing, and just see where the breath takes you. You've been practicing central channel breathing up and down and developing this super highway between these high brain centers in your deep-rooted chakra 10. You bet. And because you've been doing that all year, you are now seated in such a position that you can sense and feel, okay, we've got this super highway, but let's see where the vehicle is. Oh, it drops to right here. I'm just going to sit right there with it. There it is. It's wanting to cultivate and do its thing right here. And maybe you sit there for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes. I don't know. It might be 10. It might be 2 days. off and on. You come back and meditate and you're still there. You come back, you get up from meditating, you go do your thing, you come back the next evening, here you are, you're still here. You be right there. Don't try to push it to somewhere else that you think you know where it needs to go. And then at some moment, it drops into here, and there's some kind of expansiveness, and you just are right there. This happened with me this very morning. I was unable to sleep. It was 1:30 in the morning. I sat up in bed, sat there until 3:45. At 3:45, something told me, the highest self said to the mind, the bed isn't going to get it. You have to climb out of here and go sit in a nurtured, sacred space. So in a place that is sacred to me and working with these energies, I went and I sat from 3 until about 5 this morning. And in doing so, in the midst of this was a tremendous expansion where I wanted to inhale forever. It never ended. I just kept inhaling, it felt like. And then at some point there was an exhale happening, not because I decided, but just because it eventually started to happen and would last, I don't know how many minutes, it seemed like, an exhale. Now there might be several small breaths in and out during that time, but the energy is what I'm talking about. We just continue to inhale this expansive state and then exhale, drop back in. All the while, 100% of my focus is on catch the ride, catch the delicate ride. Because here is my mind's awareness, and here is the soulful self rising. And if I don't keep the mind soft enough, it will become so heavy, it'll drop right through this rising soulful energy. But if I can keep the mind light enough with enough loving presence, which is all that it takes, I can catch that riding wave. And the next thing I know, I'm having the experience of expansion consciously, because my consciousness has landed on the light of the truth of who I am. And in those moments, deep openings happen, an awareness, an opening, a visual of an entirely different reality. Moving into, at one point a few days ago, a deep, dark, interwoven, tangled up looking, earthy, woody, as in, you've seen perhaps carvings of doorways and on the pedestals of statues in the East, maybe in Tibet, maybe in a Balinese carving, these dark woods that are carved in all these kind of entangled ways. Also the Celtic knots and the things that were being carved in that part of the world as well, coming from a different source, but the same aspect of consciousness being tapped. What that represents is the woven basket of what is called this karmic container. And as you begin to just love into it, this wall that looks like it's a closed-off barrier begins to absorb you. And the question is, can I remain clear enough, focused enough, anchored enough in love to let myself go here? Or do I get afraid? Do I pull back? Do I take my foot off of all the pedals? Do I want to come out by thinking? I pull myself right out of that. But when you begin to know that everything that you experience is good, and that your choice to love into it is what builds the circuits for you to be able to manage the disruptive behaviors, the habitual patterns of others around you that they plug into for forms of protection and push-aways that they do in order to be safe, miserable, but safe. For you to see that coming and recognize what it is and not have a reaction to it and just keep loving into it and just keep unpacking it because it's not real and you can see it. For you to have the wherewithal to do that, you have to face these vibrational barriers inside of your own being. You have to stand present as love when they are appearing, when they are revealing to your consciousness, when it looks like that's what's real. It isn't. There's nothing real but love. The only thing that is real is love. So if you're ever in the meditation and you're in that state and you get nervous, like this is really scary looking, this is a little freaky, this is a little ugly, how could this be good? You just say, the only thing real is love. This is in the name of love, the name of light, in the nature of love, in the nature of light. This is what I choose. I choose to love into even this. And when you do that, you start to build the circuits to hold the ballast, to allow you to approach life to approach your being with your mind in its fullness, because that deep, dark, woven texture is your own rootedness. It's the roots of your tree. It is your ability to pierce yourself into this dimension fully. And so as you do that, yes, you breathe into chakra 10, but the most important frequency is love while you're doing that. You face this wall, this barrier, or something is approaching you that seems frightening. You open with love. For when you do, you drop more deeply into your true self. When you drop most deeply into your true self, what happens as a byproduct is you root to rise. And the rising to a higher state of consciousness happens automatically. Not because you've efforted it, not because you've breathed your way up and piercing through all that in these days. These holy days are about a holy approach to something precious and rare and beautiful and divine and sacred and holy. The more you can cultivate those frequencies right now and be willing to drop into your heart, into your fears, into your own mind and its tendencies, into its own addictions and its ways of hiding or keeping you from feeling something. We've been asking the question all year long, what is it that you're so afraid to feel? If you will allow yourself to feel that very thing, you're home free. And right now is the time of year to give it all you've got, to surrender completely to the idea, to the truth, that only love is real. Only love is real. The only thing that you're looking at is love. And if it looks scary and ugly and bigger than you, it is simply because your protective personality has decided that your higher self is not good, and that your smaller self, one that is predictable, one that you can control, or one that thinks it has control over your life experiences, is a safer place to be. Safe? Yes. Happy? Maybe not. Illuminated? No way. So here's the invitation. Drop in. Let whatever comes be good. And if it has a scary edge to it, open your heart even more. Drop down even more. Let nothing pull you off of staying directly connected with that thing, with that experience deep in here. Because when you do that, within the next few days, you're going to drop into a meditation that is automatically going to rise and be blissful. Rising and blissful experience, illumination, ananda, that elation that is occurring there is your true nature. But you can only experience it when you've seated yourself in a strong enough foundation that rising to those exalted states doesn't create a wobble. So, if there's been friction leading up to the solstice in your life, bravo. If there's been a freak out associated with that, like, oh, I'm going to miss it again, I don't even know why I try this stuff, excellent. If you go right back into those states and say, oh, now I get it. It was supposed to be this way. Because as the solstice approaches us, we're coming into the darkest day, the longest night. It's what allows us to dive the deepest. Right here, we're still in it. Dive deeply. Allow the rising of your own true soulful self to happen this holy day season. And as you do so, know that the entire manifest and unmanifest world is on your side. There is nothing but loving support here for you to awaken to your greatness. And everything, albeit so frustrating or so disillusioning or so confusing at times, is completely you unpacking you. Never take your eye off that. These are the holy days, and this is how we approach them with radical wholeness. Embrace every single thing that you are experiencing as if it is a direct gift from God in these next few weeks as well. So we'll be back again soon with our next masterclass, and we'll pick up this conversation, teaching you how to integrate what you've been experiencing in the meantime. Blessed and happy holy days to you and to your friends and family and to everyone that matters to you and to the rest of you that you've not even met yet. Allow that great unifying presence that is upon us at this time to go to work in your life too. It is my greatest blessing to share this information with you at this particular sacred time. So, blessings to you all. Happy holidays. Namaste.